I'm Ryan Green.
And I'm Zack Taylor.
And together we are Commander Social.
So this week we are having we're starting a new series of episodes that may or may not return. Let us know. It is Evolving Wilds, an episode about upgrading your decks. That's how I upgraded my Niv Mizzet Parun deck.
Nivy P.
So, yep, that is what we were talking about this week. So, I want to go ahead and thank everybody for listening. Hope you enjoy it. And, if you like it, tell a friend.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to hit the like button,
the subscribe button,
and the bell for ring-a-ding notifications.
Yep, that is a thing. So, we want to thank our patrons also. Thanks for hanging out with us and, supporting us.
And being awesome.
Yep, it means a lot. So, Ryan, who is our patron of the week?
Our patron of the week is Kyle McGregor. We've actually met him in person at Magic Fest Austin, and very nice guy. So, Kyle, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us.
Word.
And your feedback and your contributions are helping make this show the best it could be. So we really appreciate you and everyone else that's a patron.
So, on Twitter, if you want to find us, where would they find you, Ryan?
I'm at Green Geek.
I'm at Z4CK38, and together we're at Commander Social. So, this month we have a Twitter contest.
Tweet.
Let's show them the prize, Ryan.
All right, we got some awesomeness here. If you're not watching the video, you may hear some crinkling on the microphone. This is a Theros Beyond Death promo pack.
Yep, the cards didn't have Planeswalker stamps, unless they don't.
And they are promo.
Yep, they're
Primo.
special. Yep. So to enter in for this contest, look for the tweet, and you'll want to... oh man, that pack is green.
Yeah, it's totally green.
Is that what you were doing?
The troubles with green screens.
Yeah,
it's real.
So if you want to enter in this contest, look for the tweet. You want to retweet it, follow us at Commander Social, and then reply with 3 of your bestest friends. So yeah.
All right, so Zach, what's been going on in your personal life, man?
Not much, man. Just kind of hanging out. We got some pretty good games in at the Mothership.
Shout out to the Mothership
on Thursday. I felt like I won more than my 25%.
Indeed, you did. If math is to be served correctly, 66.66 repeating, of course, percentage.
Oh yeah, that means I won 2 out of 3 games.
That is how fractions work.
Zach gets it together. But I did that, and then earlier today, I hung out with some folks I work with and had some fajitas and whatnot at a 2-story Mexican restaurant called Dos Salsas.
The Dos is for stories.
Yep. And the number of salsas they have. You threw me for a second. I knew there was a joke there. I was like, what is it? What am I missing? And then you got there, Ryan. You got there.
I do try sometimes.
So, what's been going on with you, Ryan?
All right. Well, it's time for your hashtag MTG Dad moment. And this one is for my daughter, Veronica. My son has recently graduated to the next level of swimming. So he can't go to the same time slot that he has been going to on Saturdays. So now he goes on Thursdays and Veronica goes by herself on Saturday. But not by herself, obviously, because a parent is there. And this Saturday, it was myself. Yes.
Okay.
So I got to take her to swimming. And it was a lot of fun. And she did a really good job today. Like the coach had like all these awesome things to say about how she was, putting her hands like this. If you're listening to the audio, I'm kind of making like a entwined fingers thing, pointing them outwards and kind of using that to like be like a foil in the water,
Wait, what? Is that a thing you're supposed to do?
Well, it's the way they teach them, right? It's like this. And
no one taught me to swim, dude. Okay.
Indeed.
Why do you keep bringing that up? That's something that I'm self-conscious about.
Well, they have room in her class, I'm just saying. And they teach all ages.
I don't want to pay the tuition.
All right, fair enough.
I buy magic cards.
But anyway, so she did a really good job at class today. And then afterwards, it's like, okay, let's go have daddy-daughter day. And I took her to lunch. And
that sounds super endearing.
It was. It really was. Yeah. It was so much fun, right? And she got to have like all of my attention, like not having to compete with her brother, right? Which is something that she loves, I'm sure. And,
yeah, because
he loves also when I do it that way.
The thing is, like, it's kind of hard to like pay her attention sometimes because Malcolm's just like, it's like, oh, where's Malcolm? boom, he's off running. You gotta chase him.
Yeah, or you gotta like pick him up because he rammed his head into something. It just these are things that happen. But yeah, so it was just really cool. And then after we did lunch, I took her out for like some frozen custard, and she placed the order herself, and she ordered custard, and she said she wanted sprinkles, and a cherry on top, and she got all those things, and it was really good. It was just one of those like times that I'm going to remember, right? Because it's just this one-on-one time, and it's just like a bonding experience, right? And it's just I don't know, it's precious because I don't get to do it all that often,
right?
And I know that hopefully she'll come back and listen to this at some point and remember these fond times. Right. So yeah,
you know what I love?
Cheese.
You're not wrong, but all of our one-on-one time, our precious one-on-one time,
our Zacky Ryan time,
our Zack and Ryan time. A lot of it's on video.
That is true.
About an hour a week of it is on video.
All right.
So that moves us on into thanking Mike Condon. We thank him every week because he's the best. He is our silent partner. He's one of our BFFs. He's our audio engineer. And we just want to thank him for the Kikkoman soy sauce.
Right? Because nothing says an awesome salty snack like Kikkoman soy sauce.
Correct. A window. So that brings us to a section that Ryan likes to call
Commander Rules.
So on Commander Rules, we like to take a deep dive into the comprehensive rules of Magic the Gathering, and this week's rule is 603.2 D.
D, does that mean there's an ABC in front of it?
Yeah, and an EF as well.
Nice.
So 603.2 D states, some trigger events use the word becomes. For example, becomes attached or becomes blocked. These trigger only at the time the named event happens. They don't trigger if that state already existed or re-trigger if it persists. An ability that triggers when a permanent becomes tapped or becomes untapped doesn't trigger if the permanent enters the battlefield in that state.
That makes sense.
Okay, so that's the entirety of the rule. Does it all making sense so far?
Yep.
Okay, so there's an example.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
I always like to pick ones with an example.
Yeah, I like examples. Okay. Yeah, remember that one that was like, all the listed things, and then didn't list anything?
Yeah, it was like, all the listed, it's listed somewhere else.
Yeah, state-based effects.
All right, okay. So, example, an ability that triggers when a permanent becomes tapped triggers only when the status of a permanent that's already on the battlefield changes from untapped to tapped. So, if you had an enchantment that said whenever something becomes tapped, gain a life, and you played, a shock land and didn't pay the 2 life, it's going to come into the battlefield tapped. It's not going to come in untapped and then tap.
Right.
So it would not trigger that enchantment.
Correct.
And that's pretty much the whole rule.
So, cool. I thought I had another example, and I don't think it's a good one. I don't think it's going to work. So, right. That is Commander Rules. So, that gets us to our main topic, Evolving the Wilds. Upgrading Niv Mizzet Parun. I believe Ryan has a disclaimer.
Oh, all right. Okay. So please do not judge Zach for running off-color fetches. Blue, 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 red, red, red is hard on turn 6, y'all.
He's not wrong. All right. So we don't.
But do at him though.
Yeah, do at me about my off-colored fetches. I know there. I think isn't Patapit against off-color fetches?
Maybe.
I know there are people out there, but I'm telling y'all, blue, 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 red, red, red on turn 6 is real hard. It's real hard. But we don't actually even talk about the fetches.
Niv Mizzet, the struggle is real.
Yeah, for real.
Chromatic Lantern is Niv Mizzet's best friend.
Yep. So something that I wanted to discuss was harken back to have a time heist back to an episode about something called The Stable.
Ooh, I do love a good time heist.
Yes, time heist. We're getting to the end game here. So, on my stable, I listed my Niv Mizzet deck as one of my stable decks, and I listed all the cards that like I took out and then I put in, like, because that's what we're talking about, upgrading the deck. So I was like, okay, the degrades and the upgrades, they're all listed there. So if one of the upgraded cards is like, I'm like, oh man, I wish it was something different. One of the old cards that seem to be working. Or I realize I'm like, something's missing. I can always like go back and like look at that And
you can see how it changed over time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so the stable episode is a really good one. So if you want to check it out and you haven't listened or watched it previously, there's going to be a link in the show notes.
Yep, we will put that in there. So here's the story on Niv Mizzet Parun. Are you ready, Ryan? Do the story?
Well, yeah, I am. I'm absolutely ready. I'm always ready.
Okay, so near the end of 2017, which is almost like 3 years ago now.
Ooh, that's scary to think about.
Yep, that's a long time. I was like, oh man, Niv Mizzet Parun is awesome. I like drawing cards and I like doing damage. I was like, this is sweet. So I'm gonna do that. So it was just something I was like, yeah. But back then, when I built it, I don't claim to be great at building decks now, right? I'm more of a tinkerer, and that's why this episode is about tinkering more than building. But I didn't necessarily do like the whole like slot theory thing really, and even now my slot theory is a little different than Ryan's, but I didn't even do any sort of semblance of that. And I was just like, good cards. These cards are good. Slam them in. Good. Yes.
So you're saying Niv Mizzet started off as a good stuff deck,
basically, but like we'll get to that. More to that a little bit later.
Foreshadowing.
Yep.
Podcaster's best friend
every time. And I'd be like, oh well, like new cards come in and be like, oh, this card's good. Is it red? Is it blue? Oh, just should go in this deck. Should go in this deck. And then like, the deck started not doing as well. Like it started kind of losing a lot, and it felt like it was hard to get Niv Mizzet out on turn 6, and I was just like, and it just kind of fell out of favor.
So like it kind of lost focus a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Which honestly, my decks tend to do that sometimes, and that's usually when I take them apart. But I was like, no, Niv Mizzet, I will not give up on you. You are in the stable.
Not this Parun. Not this Draco genius.
So near the end of last year, I'd been trying to like build a deck that was like take all the turns, draw all the cards, have a bunch of wheels or something like that. And I was like, oh, that could be Emery. And then like that's just not how Emery got built. Emery got built different. And then I in MF Austin, I traded for a expropriate. And I was like, oh, I have it. It's time.
Ooh, I do love a good expropriate.
And I was like, where would I put that expropriate? I was like, Niv Mizzet. And then I was like, Niv Mizzet could be the wheel / take all the turns / draw all the cards deck.
I mean, I'm going to ask a question here. So Are there enough wheels in Niv Mizzet to make it an 18-wheeler? Is it a Mack truck?
Oh, no, it's not. I need to get more wheels. Like, one of my goals for this year is to get a Wheel of Fortune.
Ooh, that's a good, you know what? That's on the reserve list, and that is a pricey Magic card.
It's what, like 80?
Close, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more. I will say I have one from way back in the day, and it gets moved around. I do like to play a lot of mono red decks, and Wheel of Fortune is like a staple if you're playing mono red.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a couple more, but not at that price.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those, like maybe a Christmas gift to myself or maybe from my mom or something. We'll see. I'm not poor. So anyway, like after I was like, man, I'm going to just like redo the deck. And so I didn't do it in the typical way that I usually do it regarding the staple. Usually the staple is like 1 or 2 cards in, 1 or 2 cards out. This was a pretty big swing. It was like 19 cards that I took out and like 19. So
that's like a fifth of the deck. And then when you consider that probably most of those weren't lands,
there were quite a few that were lands actually.
Okay. But I mean, like, did they get replaced with other lands?
Yeah, they did.
So like you're really doing like what, 15 non-lands or something like that?
That got switched out?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty big overhaul. Like it really was. And the thing was, it was to get the deck back on focus. It was like, okay, I need to have a plan here, right? That's a thing that you should think about when you're working on decks and building decks. And when I was like, so...
And also you had like the experience of like what wasn't working well,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Think cards I'd draw and be like, oh, this doesn't seem great. And like, I was like, okay, so... we're going to kind of go over some of the cards that I took out and why.
So is this like a success story here? Like have we, with these changes, has your deck performed better?
Yeah, I was going to wait till the end to say that, but like, it's cool. So I've played this deck 5 times since I have made the upgrades, and I have won 5 times with it since I made these upgrades.
So batting 1,000.
Yeah.
That's
1,000?
Yeah.
Is that a percentage?
No, but that's what they say in sports ball.
Cool. So, true story. This happened at lunch today. A friend of mine sent a text to our text group of my work friends, and it said, straight down the middle, third post. And I was like, what is this, sports ball talk? And he was like, he just looks at me and he goes, straight down the middle of the restaurant, the third post, the third pillar in the restaurant. And I was like, oh. I was like, cool, not sports ball. So, yeah, no, my changes so far have been pretty good. I've been pretty happy with the deck. Like, I won with it on Thursday, and I know we were like, oh, we're going to play fast decks. And I was like, let me play the opposite of a fast deck.
I will say this, just speaking from an outside perspective, when I sit down across from the newly revamped Niv EP, I have this like...
You get scared? You get scared?
Well, no, it's...
Ryan gets scared?
I get like, oh, I should attack Zack. Like, it's just like, it's like this, like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, no, he needs to die. Like, I need to take out Zack.
I mean, now you know how I feel when you're like, oh, Golos. Let's play some Golos. But, yeah, it's been pretty good. So some of the cards, here's one of the cards that I took out. It's Dictator Crewfix, and I love this card. It's 1 blue.
For an enchantment with flash,
Yep.
and it says, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card.
Yeah, which I think that's cool. Like, I'm drawing 2 cards, doing 2 damage somewhere, with Niv EP if he's out. But it's like, well, everyone else is drawing gas too. That don't feel good.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, the nice thing about Dictator Crewfix is you can cast it on the person to your right's turn, so like you actually get the benefit first, which is nice because there's probably been a lot of times you've played like a Howling Mine and like somebody draws a card, somebody draws a card, and then Ryan kills it.
and
you don't get to draw a card.
I've seen that happen.
I'm not a fan of these type of effects because I understand how math works, and I'm like, wait, I get 1 extra, but then my opponents are getting 3 extra. That's not good. That's not good for business, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's a fine card in Niv Mizzet, but it's not going to be that thing that kind of pushes you over the top.
Right.
And it doesn't really support the way your deck wins.
Exactly.
Right? Like the way your deck ends up winning is like doing like Psychosis Crawler and some wheel effects or like Thought Reflection, things like that.
Right.
So, Dictate is kind of like incremental advantage. And Niv Mizzet, the way you've revamped it, it seems to kind of like have like that 1 or 2 like big turns.
Right, exactly. And that's what I want. So another card that we took out was...
Experimental Frenzy.
Yep.
This is 3 and a red for an enchantment. And it says, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play the top card of your library. Cool. Love that.
Yep.
You can't play cards from your hand. Oh, no, that's no good.
That's not what I want.
And then 3 and a red, destroy Experimental Frenzy.
And the reason I put it in to begin with was I was like, well, I have a lot of instants and sorceries in this deck, right? Because that's what triggers Niv Mizzet. And maybe if Niv Mizzet's out, I can get that big turn with Experimental Frenzy and keep casting stuff off the top. And it never worked out. It didn't, like, I think it's a good card. Don't get me wrong. I really think that's a great
I really like this card.
Yeah, I love this card. It doesn't work in this deck. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take that out. That seems right.
And honestly, so here's the deal, right? Like, in a normal, like, mono red deck, like, kind of what you can do with this, or, like a Boros deck or something, you can play this.
What deck?
You heard me.
A what deck?
Boros.
You cannot say this is a family-friendly podcast, Ryan Green. This is a family-friendly podcast.
All right, so a white and red deck, you can also play this card. But anyway, the reason is in those decks, you get like low cards in hand pretty frequently, right? Yeah. And you're like, okay, so the downside is not that bad, and what I can do is just play off the top of my library. Meanwhile, I still draw that card every turn, and then when I'm finally done and I've drawn back to like a new hand, like over the course of 3, 4, 5 turns, and I've played cards off the top of my library, I can destroy Experimental Frenzy and then get back to work with the cards in my hand. But that's not the way Niv Mizzet functions.
Right. And I expected it to work a lot like Necropotence, except red, and it just didn't.
No, and also, I mean, like, when I've played against you with Niv Mizzet, your hand is like full. Like, more than full. Over full, often, right? Yeah. Like more than 8 cards.
Yeah, I definitely run a lot of things that like let me have no max hand size.
Yeah, so Experimental Frenzy is kind of like a non-bone here, but you know what? You kind of have to play with it to understand that.
Right. So another thing I took out, and these kind of go together. First off, Merchant Scroll. It gets an instant or sorcery, right? It's blue.
It's a blue instant.
Oh, I have to get blue instant, and I was just like, I never really know what to go for, and like, it's a tutor, and I don't love playing. I'd rather just put another card there that does something, right?
Or even just another card that draws a bunch of cards.
Yeah, exactly. The next card's the same way. It's Firemind's Foresight. I'll let Ryan read it.
This is 5 blue red for an instant. Search your library for an instant card with a curative mana cost 3, reveal it, put it into your hand. Then repeat this process for instant cards with a curative mana cost 2 and 1. Then shuffle your library. So it's a 7 mana that tutors for a 3 cast, a 2 cast, and a 1 cost, right?
Yep.
So why'd you take this one out?
I took it out because it's a tutor, mostly. That and because it was just like, so with tutoring, like I know you should always like kind of know what you're going for. But for me, like...
I don't always tutor for cards, but when I do, I know what I'm going for.
Sometimes, like, it takes a while to process that. You have to find all the cards, and I don't always know. And I was just like, it's a tutor, and it does... And I was like, it's a good card. It's probably a good card in this deck, even. But I took it out because, like, I felt like... I was trying to be, like... I was thinking about other people when I... Right? And it's like, if I'm having to, like, go through my deck and be like, well, this or that and this... And, like, it just stalls... or whatever, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
And I mean, the cool thing is, it's got Firemind in the name, and it's got Niv Mizzet in the picture, right? So
yeah, and
it's on theme. If you're going Niv Mizzet tribal, probably play this card.
I mean, I have a foil one. I mean, and you know how much I love foils, and I took it out.
Yeah,
took it out
because you care about others.
Yep, that's true. Speaking of caring about others, I took out Palinchron.
Oh, you're palin mine.
Yeah,
5 blue for a creature illusion that's 4/5 with flying. When Palinchron enters the battlefield, untap up to 7 lands. 2 blue, return Palinchron to its owner's hand.
And I think, so Palinchron kind of goes with Firemind's Foresight. Not in that you could fetch that, but I feel like I put Palinchron in there for some sort of combo that never materialized. And then I think Firemind's Foresight was kind of like to get that combo that never materialized. Because I'm pretty sure those were both pieces in my... what's that deck? What's that other Izzet deck with the experience counters?
Oh, Mizzix.
Mizzix, the something or Mizzix Foresight. I played that card. But anyway,
I'll find it for you. Keep going.
But like, there was some sort of combo in that deck that I think.
Oh yeah, it's Mizzix of the Is Magnus, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Is Magnus is what messes me up.
It is.
So, is it? So like some cards came from that deck into this deck, and I think those two kind of were that.
So kind of a point I want to jump off there is like kind of the thing that the folks out there should be thinking about is the original version of this list was not focused. It was kind of like leftovers from another deck.
Yeah.
And it didn't have necessarily like a coherent strategy.
Correct.
Right. And so it was definitely very like unrefined. Right. And so like this episode is a process of like going through the refinement process and making it better. And I think being more intentional with the cards you're including, right?
Right. Because honestly, like none of these cards are really bad. I just think that there were things that were better that I could play. And honestly, and there'll be a link to a spreadsheet in here that shows to my stable that shows all the changes where you can check that out. Because like I said, there were quite a few. But the next one that I took out was the Murari Conjecture, which was 4 and a blue for an enchantment saga that says on the first tick is return target instant card from your graveyard to hand. Second tick is return target sorcery card from graveyard to hand. And then the third one is until end of turn, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new copies for the target. It seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of mana to do the things. And the things it does are good, I guess. But it's predicated on you having a graveyard, which you can't always count on. And then on top of that, I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was fitting.
Well, the other thing about this one
it seems kind of slow.
Is people see it coming, right?
Yeah.
So you don't often get that third one.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the third one is the one you really, really want.
Right. And then the last card is Vinzer Shaper's Savant. It's a legendary creature, human wizard, for 2 blue. He's a 2/2 flash. Whenever Vinzer Shaper's Savant enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. It's like a counter, but not really. But like,
I think I know why you included this card because you've always loved Remand, right?
Yeah,
which is 1 and a blue, and it does the same thing. It returns a spell on the stack to its owner's hand, and it's like you feel neat. You're like, aha, I'm countering it, but not really. I'm doing a thing. And it's this blue bounce thing.
At
right?
least Remand draws you a card, and I'm sure you've noticed I don't play Remand anymore.
It can be a fine card. It's probably better in like more competitive.
I was gonna say if you're like protecting a combo or something, it's totally fine, I think. But the reason I loved Remand so much was because I got obsessed with it in Modern. And then I was like, oh, that must mean it's good in EDH. Oh, no, that doesn't mean that.
Yeah, and I mean, Venser is a fine card,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
But it just doesn't, like, contribute to what the deck is trying to do, right? And I bet, like, there were oftentimes this was in your hand, and you're like, well, I'm not even going to keep mana open for this, right?
Right, exactly.
So this is kind of one where you had the experience of playing the deck, and you went, oh,
yeah,
this is sitting in my hand and I'm never casting it. Like every time I draw it, I never cast it. And that's a good sign that, hey, it's time to go, you know? Venser, you've got a place somewhere, probably in some sort of blink deck, right? Yeah. But this isn't that.
Yep. So those are the more, I guess, the cards that really stuck out to me that I took out, because these are some of the ones that like I thought would do well. Like Experimental Frenzy, I was like, this is gonna do it, and then it didn't. So we're gonna talk about some of the cards that I added. The first one is a Brawl favorite, Arcane Signet, 2-drop artifact that says tap 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. I was running 39 lands in this deck, and I took out, Buseja, who shelters all, because like I just wasn't using it. And I was like, that gives me a colorless mana, and Arcane Signet's mana fixing, and like we said, blue, red on turn 6 is real hard,
y'all. Yeah, and so Arcane Signet is probably the best mana fixing you could run in this at the 2 slot, right?
Yep.
Chromatic Lantern can be in there.
Yeah, and it is.
And it is, but I mean, Arcane Signet can do blue or red, and you can get that off of Felwar Stone too, if that's not already in there. Yeah. But that's predicated on your opponents playing it. So this one's definitely the safest, I think.
I think so too. Well, you could, so is this better than a Signet at 2-drop?
Probably, yeah, because like on turn 2, you could play this and then cast a 1-drop.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so up next, a card that you added is Dictate of the Twin Gods. This is 3 red for an enchantment with Flash. And if a source would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Yep. So it's kind of like a Furnace of Wrath that doesn't have to make it a whole round around the board, right?
Right. And Ryan mentioned this to me earlier. And so one of the reasons I said I took out Dictator Crewfix was because it was symmetrical, right? Everyone gets to draw a card. Even though it has Flash, I can draw a card first. Everyone still gets to draw cards. And this is the same way, but with the way that I've structured my deck now, based on like you said, the big turns, I don't play Dictator of the Twin God unless I'm about to win, right? I'm like, oh man, it's turn 5, and I'm gonna cast Niv Mizzet next turn. I'm gonna go just play Dictator of the Twin God like right now. It'll be okay.
No, it won't.
No, it won't.
Everybody's gonna come straight at you, and that's the other thing is like in your deck, you don't run a lot of creatures, right? And so if you were to just run out, Dictate that way. You're probably open, right? And you're probably going to get, even if it's just like a couple of 2/2s coming in, that adds up really quickly when Dictate is out. It does. So yeah, I think this card's a great inclusion. And again, it's building towards that idea or that focus of your deck, which is that big turn. Right. Okay, cool.
Speaking of big turns, this is the card that I mentioned earlier that kind of inspired the revamp, Expropriate. It's 7 blue, so that's 9 mana. For a sorcery that says Council's Dilemma. Starting with you, each player votes for time or money. For each time vote, take an extra turn after this one. For each money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter and gain control of it. Exile, expropriate. So at least you were gonna say time. So
it's always one extra turn.
Yeah, at least one. And then even if they don't say time, you get to take their most powerful permanent. Like that's just good. That's just good value. That's basic math or something.
I mean, I can tell you a lot of times I cast this and somebody has an Urborg in play and somebody's got a Cabal Coffers. I'm just like, I'll take that Coffers, please.
Yep.
And then, during your extra turn, you've got like double your mana, right?
Yep.
And in this deck, if you're doing something crazy like, I don't know, Blue Sun Zenith or something like that, you can go crazy, right?
I've definitely expropriated in Blue Sun Zenith for like all but 3 cards in my deck. And won that way. So the thing about Expropriate is that it's real good. Is that every time I have cast it, I have won. I've only cast it 3 times though.
Expropriate is a good card.
It is.
Turns out.
And turns out one of the times I cast it, because I'm saying cast, notice.
Not resolved.
Not resolved.
Right.
It was countered one time, but the follow-up, it was, so I'd cast a Time Warp, and I joined expropriate, and I was like, and I had double mana somehow. I was like, expropriate, and they were like, nah. I was like, cool. Karn's Temporal Sundering. So yeah, expropriate, super good. What's this next card, Ryan?
All right, up next we've got Insurrection. This is 5 red for a sorcery, which says untap all creatures and gain control of them until end of turn. They gain haste until end of turn.
So this is Zach realizing he doesn't run a lot of creatures. So I took a play out of Ryan's book, and I'm going to take yours.
Mm-hmm.
I hear Dana Roach really hates this card.
Well, I mean, so for a long time, this card was kind of considered the lazy way to win, right? Like it was just like, oh, I win. I don't think it's necessarily that anymore. I think that a lot, maybe in like the last 2 or 3 years, people have started running a lot more sack outlets. And so this is kind of like an overcosted Wrath of God if your opponents have a sack outlet.
I mean, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good card. Honestly, I think this is probably, I didn't think about this before the episode, but I think this is on the chopping block. This could potentially go. I mean, it doesn't really contribute towards the thing you're trying to do.
You're right.
And it also doesn't like work necessarily great with all the extra turns, right? Because you only get them until the end of the turn.
That's also true. I was the reason I was like, I found it and I was like, oh, like this would be a good win condition. But yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that, and I'll take that into consideration.
I mean, I will say of the 5 times that you've played it recently and won, none of them was Insurrection, right?
Yep, never. I did mill it out of my deck the other night. It got milled.
I mean, it's a fine card. I like it. I run it in some of my decks, and it's good, and it does win games, right?
But you're right. Like it's not going towards my plan. So maybe this is one I should think about. I appreciate your criticism, Ryan. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. All right. So what do we got next?
So up next is Leyline of Anticipation. Leyline of Anticipation is 2 blue for an enchantment that says, if Leyline of Anticipation is in your opening hand, you may begin with the game with it on the battlefield. You may cast spells as though they had flash. Ryan, hit him up with a story of how you remember to put Leyline of Anticipation down.
Oh, yeah. So there's a small life hack. So I am notorious for like having like this is like the most Ryanist card that ever Ryaned, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like it's an enchantment, so it's hard to deal with. You get to play it instant speed on turn 0, right? Like you get to like play it as a Leyline, and it gives all your stuff flash. I love it. But like there's no worse feeling than like getting to turn 2 or 3 and go, man, I had this in my opening hand. Why didn't I play it?
Yeah.
So I have a life hack where, cause I double sleeve all my decks, right?
Yep.
So I have like the little, like, you remember when you were a kid and you did something good in school and they would give you like the little colored star sticker?
Yeah. Don't you have a thing on your refrigerator with like my name and little stars on it?
Yeah. And every time Zach does something good, I give him like a little star. I'm like, good job. But anyway, so on the inner sleeve, I put one of the blue stars in the upper left-hand corner so that when I fan my opening hand, I see the blue star and it reminds me to put it into play. I don't know. I think it's cool. It's definitely helped me remember a time or two. Yeah. Do you think it's a good idea?
Judges, let us know if this is a marked card.
It's a marked sleeve.
No, I think it's a good idea. Like, those stars are so thin. Like, I don't think it matters. You're not going to find it. But, like, I think it's a good idea. Like, I need to do it. And something else to note about, like, Leyline Anticipation, it's not directly involved with, like, my win strategy. But the thing is, it enables my win conditions at instant speed. And I like that. Because, surprise, gotcha!
I mean, it makes your combo a little bit more resilient. All right, so another thing that's really cool about Leyline of Anticipation in your deck is that, like we said, you're kind of going towards that one big turn, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times you need like 12 mana to like make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Leyline can cut that time in half, right? Because you can like flash in Psychosis Crawler before your turn, and then you only need like 6 or 7 mana to do the crazy stuff, right? And so it does contribute to that big turn in a way that's kind of subtle.
Okay.
But a way that I think really does matter in this deck and functions well.
I think so too. Like I think it's cool. I like it. This next card is actually a card I saw Ryan playing, and he was like, man, this could go good in your Niv Mizzet deck. And then he regretted when he told me that last time when I played it. But it's Mind's Eye. It's a 5-drop artifact that says whenever your opponent draws a card, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. So 1, it's just cheap card draw. Right? 1 to draw a card. Yes, please. So like I kept trying to do it. I ended up not being able to. I kept trying to keep 3 mana open. So on everyone's turn, I could draw a card. I was only managing like 1 mana because like I like to do stuff on my turn.
But, you know, I mean, even still, like
Still
over the
good.
course of 2 or 3 turns, this card is like basically paying you off. And I mean, you typically find it in decks that don't have blue, right? So I think it is good in this deck, and it does give you like additional like value. And one thing that's really cool with this is that you can kind of like get those extra pings on other people's turns, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And like that damage adds up over time.
It does. And the way, like, one problem I will say that I have with this, with Niv Mizzet sometimes is like, it only hits one play, it hits target player. It's like, who's target player? If Big John's at the table, it's always Big John's face.
Hashtag get Big John.
But like, I don't know. I want to be fair about it. So I've devised some ways. This is kind of an aside.
Oh, I like asides.
What kind of asides do you like with your barbecue?
I don't like your traditional barbecue sides very much. I mean, I like mac and cheese. I guess that's one, but like potato salad, I'm not huge into. You know, your fried okra is okay.
Fried okra is so good. It's my favorite.
I mean, I like the meat, right? I like the sauce.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's where I'm at.
Meat.
All right, so the next card that Zach added here was Nexus of Fate. And this is the buy box promo Fantastico. It's 5 blue for an instant. Take an extra turn after this one. All right, yeah.
All snap.
It fits the theme. All right. If Nexus of Fate would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Nexus of Fate and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So at the very worst case, if you get down to it and you need to, you can just get this as the last card and just go to town, right? And then if you've got your commander in play, if you're, you know, every turn you draw Nexus of Fate and recast it, that's 1 damage, and you can slowly do it over time.
Yeah, Nexus of Fate is like really awesome. Like I wanted one for so long, but it was like a thing in standard. So they were like $20-ish. And I was like, but like they got down to like 10-ish and I got one. So like I just love the card. Like I love the art on it. I love that it's foil. I don't know. And plus it's taking more turns. So if it's on theme. So the next thing, and honestly, this card has been an all-star. I don't know why other people aren't playing this card as much. Probably because it has 3 blue pips, but it's Thought Reflection. 4 blue. It's an enchantment that says, if you would draw a card, draw 2 cards instead.
Yeah, okay, so the problem with this card is that it's 7 mana and it doesn't have flash, so if you don't have Leyline out, it's going to take your whole turn to cast it, and then you're not going to get any benefit from it until it gets all the way back around to you. So it's a little bit hard, but again, you know, you've got ways to flash it in at the end of turn and get that value like right away.
So the way that I play Thought Reflection a lot is I try to, because I run Consecrated Sphinx and I run Rhystic Study in this deck. I try to get one of those out first.
That makes sense.
And then I play the Thought Reflection, because then I do get the value. Like starting the next person's turn, when they draw a card, I'm like, oh, time to draw. Was it? How many? Sphinx Revelation is 2 cards, right? I know Sphinx. Oh my gosh.
Consecrated Sphinx?
Consecrated Sphinx is draw 2, right?
Whenever they draw 1, you draw 2.
Yeah, so I'm drawing 4 cards.
Yeah, that's 4 pings.
Yeah.
That ends the game pretty quickly.
That was the aside that I was talking about. Having to figure out like who to ping. Like
just shortcut it to the person with the highest life total?
No, what I usually do is it's the person whose turn it is. Or if someone says, oh, hey, are you going to ping someone? That person. If they remind me, I'm just like, ping. But yeah, so
there actually is something that we should talk about there. And that is, if you keep everyone's life total like roughly in line, like if somebody gets kind of up to a lead, you really do want to bring them back in line, because you're going to try to, like, your big turn is going to try to deal like 30-ish damage to everybody all at once. And if somebody's like way out in front, you're not going to end the game. Like you're still going to have somebody, and your defenses will be down after that too.
It's true.
So I do think that is a legitimate way to play this, which is to try to kind of keep everybody in the same, you know, basic ballpark life total wise.
Another thing, and people have told me this is wrong. I think you told me it was right, but like somebody's playing a token strategy deck and they're like, they're just making 1/1s like crazy. I'm pinging off 1/1s like every time. Like that's right? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I don't know. It depends on like, if you're going for the win next turn, but like,
well, yeah, if I'm going for the win, but if I'm like trying to like stay in the game and like keep going, you know.
Well, chances are if they're making a bunch of tokens, they probably have something dumb to do with those tokens, like create a hoof or you know, Beastmaster's Ascension or whatever. So yeah, keeping the board clear is something you definitely want to do, especially in a creature light deck, right?
Yep.
Like I would definitely prioritize like getting those tokens off over reducing somebody's life total, depending on the board situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it's, you know, sometimes it can be good. So what's this next card, Ryan?
All right, up next we've got Torbrand, Thane of Red Fell. This is 1 red for a 2/4 legendary creature, Dwarf Noble.
Word.
If a red source you control will deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage, a +2.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and again, triple red, hard in a lot of decks, but you know what? Niv Mizzet already has that covered, right? So
Yep.
all the cards kind of like don't really have pips really
Yeah.
in this deck because your mana base is really, really solid, and you have a lot of ways worked in to like kind of keep your mana like really solid.
I would say like this is probably the mana base in this is like the most solid of any of the decks that I have because, like I said, I've got all the off-color fetches that are possible. I've got the my one Scalding Tarns in here and all that. So yeah, it's not a problem. I can't wait to play with that card. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Have you not ever gotten Torbrand out yet?
No, I haven't.
I mean, I will say like this, it goes gangbusters with Niv P, right? Because every draw is a lightning bolt now.
Yep.
That is huge. That is really huge.
Yep. So I want to talk about the last card, Ryan. So you want to talk about the next to last card?
Sure. All right. Up next, we've got Windfall. It's 2 and a blue for a sorcery. And then each player discards their hand and then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. So this is usually like pretty good in Commander.
Yeah.
In this deck, it's actually kind of busted.
Yeah.
Actually, every wheel effect is in this deck because, like you said earlier, you run a lot of ways to like have no max hand size.
Yeah.
And so frequently in this deck, you get up to 20-ish cards in hand, especially through those Rhystic Studies and those Consecrated Sphinxes and whatnot.
And then Windfall.
And then you cast Windfall and it's like, oh, I just drew 20 cards. And then I have Psychosis Scrawler in play too. And Niv Mizzet. And like, this is like basically a legit win condition in your deck.
Yeah, it is. And that's how I've won multiple times with it. And I think it's like, I'm surprised it wasn't in there already. It should have been.
It should have been. And also, I mean, like, you know, like, for example, Wheel of Fortune always draws 7.
Yeah.
Right? This draws
however many,
right? So like, this card is actually probably better in here than Wheel of Fortune. Right. And I guess there's another one. I think Jace's Archivist does the same thing, but it's on a creature.
It's on a creature. I want to say the creature is 1 blue, and then the effect is like 1 blue. Why don't you look that up? I'm going to talk about this other, because I thought about that card. Is Dockside Extortionist. Ryan has been saying this card is super good for quite a while now, and I've been like, is it though? I was like, I don't get it. And then I saw
it's a 1/2. Like it's like it's not even going to get in the red zone at all.
Yeah, like this past weekend when we were hanging out, and then on Thursday, like I saw you play, and I was like, oh. So let me read Dockside Extortionist. It's 1 red for a 2/1 creature goblin pirate. When Dockside Extortionist enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponent controls.
Would you say Dockside Extortionist is going to give it to you?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so like...
And it being a bunch of treasure.
Yeah, because like it's like, okay, well, you know, one person got a turn 1 Soul Ring, 2 people played Signets. Like, there's people are going to play Mana Rocks. Like, I think you can get, I want to say on average, like 3 to 4 treasures out of this. Probably, what would you say? You've cast it more than
I mean that's a pretty good average case. I mean, I will say there are times when it far exceeds the average case. Right? I was playing it this week at the Mothership, and there were 10 in play. Right? And you're spending 2 mana to like. Let's just go with an average case. You get 5. Okay, we'll just say 5. Okay, so it's a dark ritual that's better because you didn't like. You're getting 5 for 2. So you're netting 3 instead of netting 2, right? Yep. And they're treasures. They don't go away at the end of turn. You don't have to use them right now.
Super good.
Super huge.
Yeah. And I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't fully explain what I was talking about. I was talking about casting it before turn 6, what I could get to be able to ramp into Niv Miz.
Oh, and it'd probably be good in that too.
Yeah, because the mana fixing is there because treasures give you, whatever color. So it's Dockside Extortionist. Early game is definitely like ramp / mana fixing, but late in the game, geez. Like if somebody's playing an Emery deck, I'm just like, okay, well, cool, 20 treasures, got there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good early, it's good late. It helps you set up for that like crucial turn. And there's a reason this card is demanding such a high price total. Like at the time of recording, it's roughly $20. And so that's like the majority of value from the deck, the Jeskai deck that it was in. And I really like it. I kind of want more.
Yeah. So it's 2188 right now. And Ryan and I were talking about this earlier when we were at the Mothership. But it's like there are other cards in the deck that it comes in, and like so if you can get one for like 30, right? 20 of that's oxide extortionist, and then it's gonna be some staples and other rares that you can use. Like I'm thinking about buying another one.
I mean, the leftover is just gravy at that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So this just in, Jace's Archivist is 1 blue for a 2/2 creature Vidalcan wizard. And it says blue and tap. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded.
Okay.
So it's just a single blue. But again, the downside is they can deal with it before it gets back to you. And you don't have any haste enablers. So I wouldn't say you need to include it in this deck.
I looked at it and let me see it again. Yeah, I think the tapping. Oh, I was right on the mana cost. The tapping was why I didn't, because like you said, the hastiness and whatnot. So, Ryan, let me ask you this. I didn't ask you this before, but I don't know. What do you think of the deck? Have my enhancements been actual enhancements? Does it seem like it's working out?
I mean, I would say that this deck has been enhanced. Yeah, man. No, it's really good. I think that it's like I said, I like the way I know that is by like a kind of a gut instinctual feel that like when I sit down and you're at the table and I have two other decks, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I need to get Zack.
Yeah.
Like and it's not even necessarily like a cognizant thought. It's like in the back of my brain. It's like, oh no, Zack needs to die because otherwise I'm not gonna win. And if the game goes late enough, he's just gonna like oops into it. And then honestly, I mean, part of it is all the extra turns like really do put you far enough ahead.
Oh yeah, for
like,
sure.
What do you have like 7 or 8 in there, something like that?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I've got like Carnage Temporal Sundering. I've got expropriate. I've got Time Warp. I've got Nexus of Fate.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
So you've got quite a few in there.
I should probably put the Delve one in there. Is that Temporal Trespass?
Yeah.
I should probably put that one in there because I don't really care about my graveyard in this deck. And then I took out Snapcaster Mage, which. That's questionable, but so are there any other cards you can think of that I should maybe put in? Got any ideas?
Oh man, put me on the spot. You know what? I'd have to go through and look at the whole list by itself, but
that makes sense. Yeah, because you could be like, oh, put this card in. Like, oh, I'll suck our guy in. That's endearing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I would say maybe like Search for Escanta in there. That's a card I always like to see.
It is.
Okay, well, see, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, it's already in there.
Great minds. So, kind of in summary here, what I realized about this through working this is like, you need to have a plan, right? We keep saying that having a plan is crucial. And honestly, I think like I have had an uptick in wins this year, I feel like, and it's because I'm starting to get more on board with this, having a plan, paying attention to what other people are doing. Apparently that's important. But, when you build, the thing is that having a plan doesn't start when you sit down at the table. It starts when you're building your deck, right? And that's what this was deciding what my plan for this deck was. It was taking extra turns, drawing a bunch of cards, wheeling. And I was like, okay, let's put in cards that do that and help facilitate that plan and take cards out that don't do that so much.
Ooh, I just thought of a card you should totally put in there.
Okay, what is it?
The Locust God.
That's not in there. Should I?
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like a redundant Niv Mizzet, right? Because when you wheel and you draw all those cards, you're going to make a bunch of 1/1s with haste.
Oh, yeah, I do like that. That's a good one.
Got there. Woo.
Did you do a DuckTales woo?
Woo.
So, I think that's good. And then like also, you don't need to have like combos in all of your decks. Like I know I like to run the odd 7-piece combo or 2-piece combo or whatever. But like this one doesn't have any actual like infinite combos in it. And the thing is, it's like, but it has a lot of cards with synergies, cards that work real well together. And that's
so you're saying like the sum of the parts is kind of greater than the whole?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that the correct answer here?
I don't know. It's that's about synergy, right? Like so it's a card that's good isn't just like the card that you should just jam into your deck. It's the card that functions well within your deck, right?
Exactly, right. Like the prime example of this was Epic Experimental Frenzy or whatever. That card's great, but not in this deck, right? Like so other cards, that I took out, like Palinchron, great, but not in this deck.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Yeah, right.
Especially because you're not trying to do the combo thing with it. So it's just like
it's just there.
It's just like kind of like a blocker.
Right.
Or like an attacker in the air. So yeah.
Yeah, because I know like me and you and Joe were talking and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about putting Reset and High Tide and Palinchron in to get a bunch of mana and then do a thing. and then it was just like, I don't want to put a combo in there. It's probably too blue heavy. Just move it on. So that's something that I just want to focus, because I'm kind of known as like the guy who plays combos, because I love a good combo. But this deck I don't feel like has combos. It just has very strong synergies. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I think we should end this episode with like a gesture out there to the folks listening.
Oh, absolutely.
What is the deck that you've revamped the most, right?
Yeah.
Have you had this level up moment where you've realized that just jamming good cards into your deck isn't necessarily the greatest way to get, value into your deck? Like, have you had it work out for you, right? Like, did you make a whole bunch of revamps to a deck and then it's become a pet deck and it's in your stable now, right?
Yeah.
We really want to hear from you, just experiences you've had upgrading your decks,
For sure.
and maybe lessons you've learned along the way. We like to learn stuff too, so hopefully you did learn something, and maybe you can have us learn something. That'd be great.
Yeah, totally. And check out my stable, and like, tell me what you think of the cards I swapped out. Like, it's not like I said a 1-for-1 swap. It's like, well, this is strictly better version of this. It's it was a whole revamp sort of thing. But like, definitely let me know what you folks think.
Special thanks to our super patrons. You can check us out at patreon.com/commandersocial and join at the Your Name and Lights tier if you want to be here as well.
All right. So that pretty much wraps up this episode. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Hopefully maybe like learn some stuff, and like I said, thanks for being here, Ryan.
Yeah, we really couldn't and wouldn't do this without you. So thank you so much if you made it all the way through the episode. And we just really appreciate all of your support. And if you want to check us out at patreon.com/commandersocial, we'd really appreciate it. So until next time, this is Ryan.
And this is Zach
saying, keep it social.